students of Reddit, what is the most useless piece of information that you've been taught at school? Every year I was taught that teachers next year will only take work in cursive. Funny. My college physics teacher explicitly told us if you write your essay by hand, use print. You'll write all of your college papers in MLA format, so learn it and learn it well. Get to college and it's APA format or GTFO. Or Chicago. Throughout college I only used MLA for writing class freshman year and an English class I took senior year. You won't always have a calculator in your pocket, you know. Edit. I never said learning the maths was useless or unimportant. Being able to do basic mathematical processes is a useful skill. So you all can stop replying to tell me how important learning maths is. I know. I get it. I very rarely use a calculator. I prefer doing mental maths. But the fact remains that the majority of the population is now carrying a calculator around with them, and therefore my initial statement is relevant to the question. The tongue map. It's false. And they still teach it after more than 20 years. So much of elementary school was incorrect. The 5 senses. The tongue map. The food pyramid. It's all bullshit. I once spent a whole 5 hours lesson learning to delete a file folder and create a file folder on Windows 7 during a trade school course I paid $25k to go to. In 6th grade we spent a full hour learning about copy and paste because someone came in and said we had to. Even my teacher was disappointed. We all were super pissed at him and the work. My teacher never made us touch that assignment again. Badgers will bite your legs until they hear a crack. So put pine cones in your boots. I was told this almost every time we had a field trip to the woods. I was convinced badgers would be a constant danger my whole life. To this day, I've only ever seen a single badger and he kept his distance. I got taught about the bystander effect by the story of Kitty Genovese. Long story short, she got assaulted and stabbed. Droves of people saw and nobody did anything. Conclusion. Bystander effect. It was only later that I learned much about it was plain wrong. There was at least one call to the police. Someone came out to help the victim. A lot less people saw it happen than what the media portrayed, etc, etc. Really? A lot of those building stones of psychology are probably way less clear-cut than they are portrayed in first-year psychology textbooks. If you work hard now, you can relax for the next 40 years. Technically, you're still in the now. Homework should be an easy, non-stress inducing task. You're f***ing right. A wise teacher once told me homework is supposed to be extra help. But that ones that need it don't do it and the ones that don't need it do it. Double quote. If you ignore the bullies, they'll leave you alone. They only left my brother and I alone when I stuck my thumb in one of their eye sockets. Good thing I learned though. Always help the dinner lady who's cleaning up the dinner trays. They'll save you the good stuff. Also, the shitty of punishing the victim for sticking up for themselves when ignoring them doesn't work in most schools. I have no idea if it's just a Texan thing or it's just in my part of Texas, but the no tolerance rule in schools punishes both parties involved in fights even if you were just defending yourself. How to read the trigonometry table booklet. We even have a contest on who's the fastest to spot the answer. Stroke. Oh yeah. Hated those in high school. Fortunately by the time I got to college, trig functions on a calculator were common. But then I had to do the table thing again in my engineering economics class to calculate future values and other compound interest problems because financial calculators were very rare at the time. How to write in cursive. My class had hours of lessons through a few weeks of school. It slowed down my writing so much and I just ditched it, realizing how little people actually care about it. My 3rd grade teacher called my mother at home about my bad penmanship and told her that if I didn't learn to write in cursive I was doomed to be a gas pump jockey. Recently I was in college calculus class. My instructor, math PhD student, looked at a lesson. He said, "You will never use this. But I'm required to teach it, so we will do the homework in class and I will make sure it's not on the test." Double quote. At least he was honest and did you all a solid. How to play Hot Cross Buns on the recorder. I can hear this comment. Bar Black Sheep would have been a better song. At least then you would know 3 songs instead of just 1. I learned in high school that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's not even correct. Everyone knows it was android 17 and 18 that were the powerhouse of cell. Mitochondrion is the powerhouse of a cell. Mitochondria are the powerhouse of cells. Middle school. With the French teacher. The only thing I actually learned from her was that when she was a kid she took chocolate in foil from the butcher and that she liked the houses of Venice at night. I had 2 teachers in elementary school that would make us watch slideshows of pictures from the vacations they took together to Washington DC and random ass places. Not sure that was on the state tests or anything lol. Nutrition. When I started elementary school it was the 4 food groups. By high school it was the food pyramid. And by college it was MyPlate. They have absolutely no idea about nutritional guidelines. They constantly change them and can't make up their minds. It's way too dizzying to try to keep up. Who knows what it'll become next. That there were no bananas in East Germany. They weren't very common. If the store got some they were gone pretty much immediately. Also it was helpful to be on good terms with the person working in the store so she could reserve some for you. Came expecting to see mitochondria meme and people bitching about not taking life science courses. Was not disappointed. My daughter is in high school now and every so often she'll do homework at my desk. I don't even need to tell you the rest of the story because it's so obvious. But the other day I came down to work and she had left some handwritten notes. Conspicuously featured was the remark, "Mitochondria equals powerhouse of the cell." Double quote. What are flying buttresses? We don't speak English here but now this word is stuck with me forever. I got taught that blood is actually blue. I also got taught that the tongue tastes specific things on different parts of it. Fuck you. Shitty teachers. Well, there is a rare form of blood which is blue. And can also carry less oxygen than its red counterpart. There is a story of some American family who had this type of blood BC of inbreeding BC they live so remotely. The Blue Kentucky people I think they are called. It doesn't matter what career you choose. The useless things to learn is the date of birth of historical characters. Unless you go on game shows and then it's very useful. Or if you play trivia a lot. Every year the teachers like to put the idea in our head that we are behaving horribly and next year you'll be a grade instant literally any grade and you teachers won't be a lenient. Turns out that's a lie and as you get older if you don't mature enough to stop pulling bullshit in class the teacher will literally either ignore you, joke with you, or kick you out because it's high school and you aren't their kid. Not scream at you like all our teachers did when we were younger. What award someone would win if they won in a certain book genre? Like WTF school. If it's a writing school I could see that as useful but in a public school not so much. In Ray class in high school we no joke spend multiple lessons talking about cult secret societies as part of the curriculum. That sounds more interesting than Ray was for me. Stupid English lit quotes. Several books. 18 poems. 2.5 hour exams to test whether I could learn what you ate. And then he stabs him. Truly poetic. You have to wear a uniform to prepare you for real life and work. Because every job requires you to wear the exact same thing. You tend to be allowed at least a little variance in what you have to wear unless you're in the military I think. My sister was taught how to release sheeps from barn in case of emergency. Did you have sheep at the time eventually get sheep? That stupid finger story about how your fingers wanted to rob a person and the thumb disagreed and moved further from the others because he didn't want to be associated with them. No. I don't know how to set up a retirement plan. At least I know why my thumb is different than the rest of my fingers. Double quote. Edit. So apparently I was the only one taught this in first grade, or below maybe. I don't really remember, the teacher was probably just really damn weird. Also, my school was one with all those special needs students. They probably learned to treat everyone like that. How elephants have sex. If I wanted to learn how large mammals have sex, I would walk in on my parents. The 3 states of matter are yes, solid, liquid, and gas. L. What about Blas? Heresy. Purge the heretic. Double quote. Cursive. Was told that we would use it for the rest of our lives. Until they shelved the subject way through elementary school. Funnily enough, when I was told we'll use it for the rest of our lives, I only used it on the worksheets we had to do cursive on, and everything else was print. I think that was the start of me being petty and not wanting the school to win that. Haven't used it since like 3rd, 4th grade. I don't even remember how to write in it. You need to learn this information. It's important and will be useful in later life. No, it f***ing won't. Lol. Reminds me of when my teachers would tell us we wouldn't have a calculator with us at all times. Not. Why can't I show working out in a way I know how to bloody work out? To show you different processes, I guess? I never really understood why we had to learn several different ways to come up with the same answer. Oh my f***ing lord. On the day we left school for COVID, I had a class in handshakes. F***ing handshakes. Apparently, because giving a good handshake was respectable, we were shown a PowerPoint on how to do it and were given homework to practice it on others because we couldn't practice it among ourselves. All of this was of course in the height of the pandemic, and obviously, no handshakes are allowed. WTF school. I took an auto shop class my senior year. Teacher was awesome. Class was awesome. Would have been my top 3 if I picked favorites for school subjects. Then like 3/5 in the school year he had to leave because of a back injury from a prior thing. Our sub the rest of the year was terrible. We basically just sat and either reviewed what we already learned or just watched some random video on how to fix something. Which again was review. That Columbus was a hero who discovered America. Granted, this was 23 years ago, but still. One of my middle school history teachers was Native American. You could see how pissed he was when the Columbus unit rolled around every year. Thankfully the school worked with his tribe to do a presentation on the true history of Columbus. So we got a taste of how Columbus was a shitty human in reality. I'm a firm believer that a good general knowledge makes you a better person. And that schools shouldn't be factories producing corporate slaves. But goddamn, I've never used any of the physics, chemistry or biology in my career, and I remember how hard it sucked having to learn all of it. Kinda subjective. But for shits and giggles, my immediate reaction was all the theology classes my first university forced into us. I'm here to learn about accounting. Stop making me learn the history of Corinthians. I assume you went to a private Christian college. Advanced mathematics. Honesty, if you do not study math or something that uses a lot of math directly after school and university, you will likely never use it again, or at least have to look it up again anyway. Granted, if number 2 is you, it's easier to relearn than to learn. But I think the majority of people will fall into group 1. Including me. I just Google it. Math. All the high school math I learned was pretty much useless, and I had to relearn everything in university. I'm aware you can't really teach some of these subjects to high schoolers. But then high school math should teach problem solving and not half memorizing incomplete algorithms. That a college degree will lead to a good career. In high school I had to take classes on how to apply for effing student loans and scholarships. But never crossed anyone's mind to teach us personal finance or wealth management. JFC. Sakatoa. This shook me to the core and I don't even remember what it stands for. In first grade we had to learn how to type on a flip phone, on a dial pad instead of a QWERTY layout. My teacher said you'll need to know this to use a cell phone and made us spend a whole day learning it. The first cell phone I got was 7th grade, was a smartphone with a touch screen. How to cite sources by hand. There are tons of websites where you can do it for free. Also, a year after we learned to do it by hand, they made us learn how to use this online program that did it for us anyway. Henry VIII had 6 wives. I don't need to know that. divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Student. I want to be a truck driver. School. Cool BTW. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Algebra and geometry are worthless when taught outside of the context of real life. You could teach kids how to use math in their everyday life. When you present kids with pure math that doesn't solve any real life problems, it makes it seem like there is no use for this besides being a math teacher, and it destroys any interest or motivation to learn. Sex. I haven't used it at all. Memorizing everything from the literature book. Everything. Poems. Stories. Summaries. Answers of questions in the books. And so on. FFS. How are these supposed to help in life? The F-king homework. I mean, we already work for like 7 hours a day, so what is the point? And having more than one piece of homework per subject per week is BS. That George Washington had wooden teeth. Actually, he had teeth from slaves. And apparently it was important that he chopped down a cherry tree. Maths to calc the height of a tree. Never took notice then and never had to measure one in 45 years. Although climbed a few. If I really wanted to know, I'd hire the local squirrels to drag a tape measure up there. Believe it or not, I actually used the protractor string trick to measure the height of a huge tree I was cutting down to make sure it wouldn't hit the fence. Worked like a charm. Square of the hypotenuse of a right-angled triangle is equal into the sum of the squares of the other two sides. I will consider my life a failure if I don't use this once in practice. I was using that the other day to help my wife figure out how to cut some fabric for the quilting square she was trying to make. I would actually say probably the entire second semester of both biology and chemistry. Any useful life knowledge was imparted in the first half of both classes. And the second half was delving to a detail that really didn't matter. I always thought those should be one semester classes to free up space for ones more applicable to the real world. Essay competitions where you write mind-numbingly stupid essays in less than an hour. Might not count. But fat gym teachers just make nobody care. Fat gym teachers who insist that you are the one who does not work out enough are my favorite. The format of an informal letter. Why? Just why? The nucleus is the brain of the cell. That the teachers in the next grade only accepted work in cursive. And my personal favorite. That if you don't memorize the reciprocals of fractions by 6th grade, it's the end of the world. Edit. Also about how Columbus discovered America. They lied to us. Mixed numbers. I guess it's supposed to help kids learn improper fractions easier. But damn, mixed numbers are so weird and useless and unnecessarily confusing. Improper fractions are the only ones you end up using anyway. Why are they even improper? Considering the long run, probably most math are not gonna do all these complicated problems in life unless a future job would heavily require that kind of knowledge. Anything common that involves math would probably require a calculator, which we have on our phones, or use Google. That America is the best country for everything. It's not even accurate, it's just not the worst. Just Pluto. I grew up knowing that it isn't a planet, and then, in 6th grade, 11 years old, 2017, my teacher said that they changed the definition and now Pluto was back to being a planet. I grew up knowing it was a planet. And then it wasn't a planet. And now you say it is a planet? My science teacher in grade school made us memorize and identify different rocks and frog calls. Shakosphere. Like literally WHYYYY. It wasn't even meant to be read, it's meant to be acted out. It's so hard to understand and it's just boring, in my opinion. Deoxygenated blood is blue. Just F-king lies. I was told repeatedly that no one would have a calculator in their possession at all times. Not quite in the spirit of ARP's question. But the first thing that came to mind. The fact that only one part of your tongue only tastes spice. Or salt. Or sour. Thing. It's not true. Apparently the whole internet weighs close to an average strawberry. My computer science teacher had some episodes lol. How many watermelons Johnny bought? America is the best country at everything.